Welcome to Faith Over Breakfast. You are listening to a podcast by Pastor Eric Deepen and Pastor Andy Middleton. If you enjoy Faith Over Breakfast, we encourage you to rate it on the Apple Podcast app, on Spotify, or Google Play. Thank you and enjoy the podcast. Welcome to Faith Over Breakfast. My name is Eric, and I am pastor at the Village Church, and across from me is Andy Middleton, pastor of Mission Church, and we are podcasting once again.
Twice again. And what is it? Being how we need some young people to think like missionaries in our culture, what character means. Brief thoughts on Holy Week at the end. It's the best podcast you'll ever hear.
It is really good.
We have the answers.
We have the answers. You need to email us. We've got the answers for you too.
Email us now if you want a real relationship with God.
And answers.
And all the answers.
All right, enjoy the podcast, guys. Andy Middleton.
Hey.
How are you doing, dude?
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah.
Slept well.
Did you?
Mm-hmm. Not the night before, but last night.
Last night?
Yeah.
What time did you go to bed?
Oh, shoot. Shooting for 10-ish.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I was in bed at 9:50.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Around there.
I was impressed with myself.
All right, well, yeah. I'm impressed with you.
Usually I'm in bed at 10:30, 10:40.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah. It varies in my world. I'm usually the first one in the bed, but the when does sleeping begin? That's another question.
Yeah. So you sent me a text saying, "Hey, topics," and I said, "Where's Kate Middleton?" And you're like, "I don't know."
Yeah. I still don't know.
And he still doesn't know, guys. So if you are tuning in to Faith Over Breakfast to figure out where Kate Middleton is, sorry.
I have a better idea. And this is an idea I've had for a long time in various forms, but I think we should do a podcast on where we are and for Kate Middleton to listen to.
There you go.
I think she should be concerned about where you and I are.
Kate Middleton doesn't know where Andy or Eric is.
That's a problem. Yeah, I mean, just think about it. Like I think about this every time I'm in the line at a store or something, and there's all these magazines about these celebrities, and I think, they're really missing out because they don't have one about us.
You and I should just make false fronts,
and
like just fronts of magazines, and then just stick them in different grocery stores.
Yeah,
Eric seen
wearing hoodie over collared polo.
Right.
Yeah. Which I'm seeing that right now.
You're seeing it right now. Yeah, it was cold outside, but I didn't want to wear a T-shirt. So
wearing flannel button-up hoodie over collared polo shirt.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, people of the world incensed or something.
Yeah, there should be some incensement.
Yeah.
About it.
There you go.
But,
yeah. I think they should know what we're doing. That's what I'm saying. So maybe we should record this. Where are we? Send it to Kate. So she has. Right. This is probably why she's in hiding, is because everyone's about her and no one's making it about them.
That's probably true.
If we made it about us more and not about them, then they could read about us.
And I think that's the title of this podcast: more about us, less about Kate Middleton,
or anybody.
Just
all about us. And the great thing is that's a great way of loving others. Because they don't need it to be all about them anymore. So if we make it all about us, it's really quite a gift.
It is. I feel like we're giving a gift to the world.
Yeah.
Just by you and me talking to each other.
It's beautiful. Really.
Andy, the man who says, "Let's get to the subject."
This is the subject. We're on it.
It's us.
Yeah.
More about us.
Me. You. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's good.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go.
So now that we know.
So that was the initial one. And then I put up, this came from Christianity Today. And I think the Gospel Coalition there's this, the influence of the white evangelical, and then also does character matter, sort of the linking those two together and how character has evolved when it comes to politics.
Well, we are both white and in some people's definition, evangelical. So that'd be a great way to make it about us. Is just to talk about us. Two white evangelicals talk about themselves.
And then
that's never been done.
That's never been done, no. And then the second one, especially on this podcast, the second one
all the other, I don't know,
was 20 and 30 somethings need to get get to it and start doing some cultural missional analysis for the rest of us.
Oh yeah, get to it, guys.
Yeah. I mean, that's what
being over 40. I am ready for you to get to it.
Yeah, this is what we did. So they need to start doing it for us.
Great. Let's talk about that.
And then the last one, I don't even remember what the last one was, but I thought it was important. It was good.
Does character matter?
No.
You said that one?
I did say that one. Let me see. What did I send you?
I got so excited about the other one.
Oh, you were just so super excited that you didn't care. How did Jesus handle the dysfunctional of the disciples?
I think he pointed it out a lot. I think he just shook his head and said, "You guys are so dysfunctional." And I think he categorized them in other ways that line up with modern psychology.
Yeah.
Typically, I think he talked to them about codependency and I actually think he was a pharmacist. I think as they walked around together, he was dispensing meds constantly, and that's how it worked. That's the difference between.
Oh my gosh! I don't think we're publishing that. I do think maybe that's why they were always eating the wheat and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
There you go.
I think it would be an interesting study to go through all 4 Gospels, look at what's going on with the disciples, and then look at how closely connected it says Jesus left. Jesus went to the Mount of Olives.
Yes,
withdrew. And was it an intense moment with Peter? And then he withdrew.
Yeah, he just loved prayer. No, they were driving him crazy. And no, I'm just kidding. He did.
He did love
both
prayer,
and.
But that's the question I've been pondering in a semi-serious way is,
sure.
Could the disciples drive Jesus nuts and him not sin?
Well, if he was human,
yes,
that must be a possibility.
It's the and did he handle it by just giving them names that were maybe one of the ways, the sons of thunder
and when he said that, was he like, I now declare you the sons of thunder? Or was he just like, oh, yeah, because you guys are the sons of thunder, rolling his eyes a little bit?
Yeah.
When was he being a little tongue-in-cheek? Or both, or, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I know,
do you think that...
he liked nicknames. I mean, even Mary Magdalene is just Fish Tower. He probably called her the Tower.
She, like every woman, wants to be called the Tower.
Right. Hey, Tower, come on over here. But I mean, it was an affection. Either that or she lived next to the fish tower, which they had next to the lakes, so that you could see where the schools are. And there were so many Marys. He's like, I can't tell you. When I say Mary, I want you, so you're...
Their last names were often just associations with who their father was or what town they were from, or
right. Well, I mean, since Mary was a predominant name, you needed some other signifier.
Yeah.
But it's really hard when you're like Mary, son of John. I'm like, okay,
which John?
So you got to be the John who lives over on the whatever.
Okay. Well, now that we figured that out, which one are we talking about?
I don't know. I figure let's just start and work our way down. Does character matter anymore in our culture? Do we care what people do?
Only other people. I think
do we?
Well,
as long as if they don't agree with us.
This is what if you're doing, I think that we've become very pragmatic in that if you're doing the thing I want you to do, then character, I don't think anybody would say it doesn't matter. I think everybody would say it matters. But when will I be turning the blind eye? When will I be saying that's excusable?
Has that gotten bigger? The blind eye turning, has it gotten bigger on both sides of the political aisle?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, so just the story that, this one's been talked about, but it's our growing up. So when you and I were growing up, you were older, Bill Clinton and the cigar incident, right? And Monica Lewinsky.
Right.
So and here's the thing. So you and I grew up in the evangelical spaces or whatever.
Sure.
And so we heard with just absolute clarity, this is unfit
behavior.
Now, here's the thing. That was within the white evangelical circles. That almost seems like a whole nother world now.
Yeah.
But that's not even my point. If you moved over into more of the old left, and actually my family we were around more of those folks at the time. That what they felt pretty similar. They weren't okay with it. They weren't proud of it. They weren't joking around about it. They weren't embracing it. They might say, well, he's human. But I don't remember any of those people just being like, no, this is actually like God's man for us, or this is it's just locker room talk or something. Like, I don't remember any. I remember embarrassment. I remember, it was a sense of like, I wish there was character. I hope that this was a temporary thing. But nobody was just reveling in it. Nobody was embracing it. Today, it feels like there's a large group on both sides of our political spectrum who basically are like, our people, even when they do something that's been wrong in our society's definition, we're going to embrace them no matter what, and even excuse their quote unquote character flaws, or say they're not flaws at all. And that,
do you think
there's layers to why that's
do you think
happening.
well, let's just talk about our tribe though. Do you think that or the tribe that sometimes we get put into that the that's kind of filtered down to the evangelical leader, that in some way, if they have a lot of influence or they are a charismatic speaker, I mean, we see this with, say, like somebody who comes up a lot on this channel, Mark Driscoll, of moving from, basically exploding the thing he did, and then now he's in Phoenix doing something, and people know his history. You can go on the internet and figure it out.
Oh yeah, it's
whole
everyone
podcast has been done about it.
Everyone who's there is saying, "Oh well,"
yeah,
or I don't care, or that wasn't even wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We deal with people, other characters. I mean, many on the right, like Doug Wilson, others like that, like where we're just willing to overlook a lot of things where you're thinking, I don't know if he should be saying that in public. Why is he saying that?
And not only is it overlooked, but it makes them more popular.
Yeah.
Like Doug Wilson,
most people don't know, but he's a pastor. Just so
yeah. I mean, the guy he's a great writer. He is obviously a very smart dude. But seriously, he's kind of discovered what Donald Trump discovered, which is that if you do some crazy stuff and have some weird views and kind of get antagonistic,
sure, that
it will work. And that's been his bread and butter. That's why he is as popular as he is. Otherwise, he'd be an obscure middle American pastor who's
like
just,
you and me.
Like, yeah. I mean, but even in a more, you get even more lost in that part of the country.
Right.
Like the reason he's known is because he's wacky.
Right. Is he in Idaho?
Moscow, Idaho. Yeah. And that's his big thing. Seriously, it's that he's pushed people's buttons. It's that people have blogged about him and said he's a problem. It's that you can't tell if he's racist or not. It's that, or some people are pretty clear on it, but it's like it's that exact stuff that's made him who he is, which is why people buy his books. It works. It's pragmatic.
So let me take this down a different level, is how, as followers of Jesus, where we want to say, character of our leaders and the character of those who lead us in politics, that should matter. And yet we've got to navigate the people who are leading us, and we're called to submit to the government. Like, how do we navigate that? How do we navigate that? Like, and how do we, in our own lives, look at character mattering? Yeah. How do we develop it in our children?
Gosh, it just seems like there are so many. So it'd be easy, I'm thinking, from the outside to look at the church. I get it. I get looking at us and going, wow, you guys are, not doing it. I mean, and also even more like, I think of the Southern Baptist Convention and how, like, so you're going to spit Rick Warren out for being egalitarian, but when it comes to like massive sexual abuse cases from people who teach quote unquote right Baptist doctrine, it gets a lot more complicated to, they get all kinds of space. Yeah. And that's, anyway, I see that and I go, wow, I get the critique. But here's the thing, what I want to say on that is, it's actually the movements of our society that the church has embraced that are causing this problem. It's the church's similarity to the culture.
Can I say that it's what the article in Christianity Today called it was this the secularization of the
Yes.
right, where we have
Oh yeah.
where Chris Rock is now an icon within the right, where
Yeah, and Dave Chappelle and yeah, and a lot of other people who aren't like yeah.
So we've kind of begun to say the character is it doesn't it's what you believe, or like the policies you're willing to hold up.
By the way, culturally, the shock jock thing used to be left.
Yeah.
Right? It was Howard Stern. It was to question sexuality, whatever.
Yeah.
Now the shock jock thing is to be right.
Yeah.
And so you're going to see in pop culture, you're going to see a movement right, because
Right.
this is what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's curious. It's curious to me. It's a process. I don't think we have any answers. It's just like, but this is the thing on the table right now. This is the culture that we swim in, you know, the Joe Rogan show and the Jordan Peterson. Like, we have this whole conversation that's going on that was not going on when you and I were in our 20s and 30s. Like, this was not it.
Yeah.
So now we're talking about. So I think that kind of just brings us into, I don't know, I think the young Christian who's in his 20s or 30s and wants to be a missionary needs to start helping us understand what's going on, because the language is also changing, the way our culture talks and understands things and its codes and its.
And I assume by missionary you mean who consider that God has a mission for them within our culture.
Yes.
Right? And who need to be able to step back and assess what are the gods, what are the idols, what are the patterns, the allegiances of our culture, and be an objective, as you would walk into another culture and assess it, be able to do that for our own, which is difficult to do.
Yeah.
And you often need outside eyes to help you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So which 20-year-old would you like to be doing that in your church? Just name them now, call them out.
No, I think all people who are following Jesus, I mean, of any age, we need to be doing that. But I think young people they get their finger for just a short point in time on the way the culture is moving. It will move really fast past them, and then they'll be asking, like, what the heck's going on?
Sure.
And I think that is something that we, I don't think it's something I was taught when I was young.
No, for sure.
I had to learn in my 20s, like, people start saying, hey, you need to start paying attention to this stuff.
Yeah. Well, I was sitting with two, a 31-year-old and somebody in their mid-20s talking, and this is young men, in this case, yesterday, who I would say both asking, questions about faith and the world they live in. And one piece would be, it is abnormal for younger people to have ever experienced stability.
Yes.
It's becoming so what would you say about the culture? Like, they are looking back on their parents who are now in their 50s and saying, you ran away from stability, and it has made a mess. So there's a lot of critique of the parents. Then there's also just a lot of hopelessness. And in that hopelessness, there is a sense of, like, the character question is tough, because it's like, I was hearing from them, it's understandable that people are running to all sorts of vices. So in a way, they were seeing it as not good, but also not as shocking. Like, I think for you and I growing up, a friend is doing drugs. It was like, what? Or it was a little bit like, oh no, like, especially hard drugs, Now it's like, you say, oh, my friend's doing drugs, and everybody's like, well, yeah, who isn't, right? And that's like, so I think there's this sense of, like, the character question is, it's almost like, is that even possible? Like, could you even live a life? I mean, I'm just talking about one thing right here, which is, substance abuse. I think it's hard to even imagine a life without having, massively struggled with that lately.
Yeah. No, I think you're right.
And so I think just that it feels like in our time growing up, there was an expectation that you would have good character and a good record.
Yeah, within the evangelical world.
Within the evangelical world. Now, and that was damaging to some degree. It's a high expectation.
Sure.
But today, that bar is so low, it feels like.
Yeah.
Except in certain issues. If you have sexually done something that, fits certain then you're done. But in other categories, there's all sorts of room for whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
Interestingly, when we were younger, the sexual stuff was more like understandable. It was like, oh, you're just exploring your sexuality. Yeah.
I'm just trying to process. I think the thing that I've been thinking about is I went and watched Dune, which is a big thing. I mean, it's a book that was written a long time ago, but it's resonating now.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's it saying?
There were some articles on Dune. What was the headline that caught my eye, also from Christianity Today, was "The weak do not inherit the earth" in Dune. That was an interesting, or the meek do not inherit.
And I think a lot of that's true. I think a lot of the cultural analysis is not coming from 20-somethings.
Yeah,
because I think if you look at the main characters in that, what you get is that someone else is always manipulating us.
Yeah.
And
so you have to stand up.
And the instability of the parents
Mm.
is wrecking the society. It's all there.
And was that in the book, or is that the modern twist?
I actually think it's in the book. In fact, I think it's more in the book than it is even in the movie. I do know, I haven't read the book, but I've heard enough from the people in our church who do have read the book, that Johnny, the main female character, isn't as strong as she's depicted in the movies. But that's partly just they needed to do some character development and some contrasting. But I look at it and I thought, man, if I were in my 20s right now, I'd be trying to figure out, well, what is this saying about God? What is this saying about how people understand the time that they're in? I also think that this is a weird thing, but I think chick flicks of the time tell you what's happening in people's understanding of relationship and love. And you get the chick flicks of the last 20 years are just weird. I mean, they're just not, especially the last 5 to 10.
Interesting.
The complexities are different, and like love. When I in the 80s and 90s, love was still the highest thing.
Yeah,
like you have to find that,
and it was
that's going to save you.
Yeah, and it was like you want just the cool guy in school to, I think, man, I'm not an expert on chick flicks, but it felt like it was more standardized. Like it was either you get the cool guy in school's attention, or you find the hidden gem,
right?
Or something like that, and then it works out. And today it's like the hope that it works out is very, very low. It's almost like the ideal is to get through that phase and move on and do your own thing.
Yeah. There's that, or you're not really in love with this person, and then there's all of this just like exploring outside of it, and then maybe this is actually the person.
Maybe it is possible after all,
right?
And the movie ends on a big question mark,
right? And love's not the highest thing.
Yeah,
like I think that's one of the bigger changes. Love is not going to save you.
And as with all of these movements, there is some truth to that.
Yeah,
that is an actual discovery.
Yeah. So it's interesting. It's interesting living in this culture. Where are we at? What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So character. What's the answer?
Well, I think the thing that's put to go all the way back to what you're to talk about us.
Mm-hmm.
I think the village, the mission. I think many church plants are trying in this time to say, well, we need to be the stability. Like the community of God can provide stability to the world. Through Jesus. Jesus is stable. Right? Jesus offers meaning. Jesus offers purpose. Jesus offers direction. He offers family. He offers brothers, sisters. And so there's an invitation to stability within the community of God. I think there's a movement of that over the last 20 years or so in church planting and the thinking about what you're providing for people. I see it even in the mega churches when they advertise. What are they saying is, you need to be involved in your local church. You need to have family. You need to be
even
connected.
The big churches are saying that.
Yeah.
I saw something like Andy Stanley's church was talking about that recently, and I went, really?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure they've always said it, but
It
felt a little funny.
Yeah.
So I'm like, man, you're going to like the massive
20
concert church, right?
1,000 plus church. Yeah.
Okay, here's an interesting question. This, not that I don't think this matters, or I'll state it and see what you think about it. I don't hear today often, nor do I get the feeling, even in a small church, that people are saying, I want you to be a person of character that I can look up to and be proud to be affiliated with. I get more of, I need you to be a support to me. Do you sense anything? No, I'm not putting that on anybody. I think that's a product of our time, but I think that's very different.
Yeah, I hear that until you fail.
Yeah, and if there's a certain threshold after which, or a certain category of thing,
or just you failed them in some way.
Oh well, that's what I mean by
your character.
That's what I mean by the support. Like the bigger failure would be if you failed me.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, it could be through your character,
and they could be tied together. Well, your character.
I think it is.
Your character comes into question when you let me down.
Yeah.
Then
sure, I think there's some of that. Definitely, I think people are at a point where they're just like, I need stability. Like I think that's
they're looking for parents.
Yeah, we all are. I think at some level.
Yeah.
I think Gen Xers and millennials and Gen Zers are all looking for parents.
I'm not saying that but I'm just it's just evident.
Yeah. So I mean, I think we're a lot more. I also think we expect a lot more from our church. I think
in many ways.
I think my parents expected Christian education for their children and education for themselves about God.
Yeah, education. I mean, what I was saying about character would be like a person who gets up and educates who I can be proud to affiliate with.
Yeah. There's and programs that will assist me in raising my children.
Yeah, and
giving them proper understandings of Scripture and Jesus.
Yeah,
and providing friends for them.
Yeah,
I think that was a big part of it. That's changed. I think people are looking for a church that offers them something more relational now. Something more communal.
Family.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is where the appeal of Mark Driscoll saying he was like a father, as weird as it was also a big draw.
Yeah. Fills a big hole in all of our lives.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So
you see a shift there.
I do see a shift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, next topic.
Why? Yeah. Well, I think maybe when you start thinking about all of this, is Jesus had a relatively motley crew of people,
right?
And they actually were looking. Peter makes his declaration. Where else can we go?
Yeah.
You have the words of life. So there's something like, hey, everything that we've been doing in this chaotic world does not mean any. Has no meaning compared to what you're saying and doing.
This is deeper.
Yeah.
This is something else. Yeah. They were for their day. I mean, we're, as I've mentioned on here before, going through the book of Mark and looking at some of the early times. So right now where we are as a church, there's 4 disciples that have been called, and this week the 5th, maybe, depending on if Levi is Matthew. But you're starting to think about, well, this is especially at this moment where Matthew enters into a bunch of fishermen who he likely offended. Throughout his life,
and inviting him in is making this group fully unclean.
It's unclean. It's not.
It's a tax collector.
Talk about the group was functional for fishermen. They all could similar lifestyle, similar jokes. Yeah, similar jokes. Now the guy they make the jokes about has been invited.
Right.
Right. It's getting dysfunctional now.
It's getting dysfunctional.
It's no longer and this I hear all the time. I just want to go somewhere where I can be seen and known and understood. Well, at the invitation of Matthew, and that is over. the community is no longer where I can be seen and under. Now it's like, okay, can I really share what I think about this? Can I really, does this feel like home? Not anymore. So what is Jesus really offering the community that follows him?
Yeah, and you think about probably if you're a fisherman, you're just average middle class guy of the first century, whatever that looks like, and then Levi's probably pretty wealthy. And Levi probably comes with some people, like some servants, some soldier, like he may come with a whole.
Well, and the people who know him and are affiliated to him that they're going to bump into are not the people.
Right.
And this gets in my sermon this week, but I was at the Pac-12 tournament in Vegas with some of the people from Vineyard, and I was thinking about this sermon, and I was like, I am in the right setting to think about Matthew or Levi. And some of the people here, you go, yeah, wow, they're successful, but you can't really respect them. And you feel, and I felt walking around with 4 pastors, like, I think
you're like the 4 disciples.
Our people aren't here. And then we bumped into Phil Cruz from Rinka. Oh, hey, Phil. Okay. Oh, same. All right. We're all, you're not
all fishermen.
Yeah, you're not doing all this, are you? No. Just, roll of quarters, and whatever. But but you're like, okay, we're moderates around here.
Right. Well, that's really interesting. Barclay does a good job of breaking down exactly who Levi was and what it would have looked like for him to live in the culture that he did. He equates him to mafia. Like,
sure,
he lived separate. He probably lived up on a hill away from everybody.
Right.
And so when he comes down, he's not enforcing the taxes himself. He has Roman attachments, or he has his own attachments to force people to do what they need to do. So, and then Jesus calls him, and all of a sudden that's just like he's throwing a party at his house, which is not in Mark, but it's in.
There is he's with the tax collectors and sinners in Mark.
Yeah, that's true. It is true.
Now there is. I should just say what I discovered was it's highly likely that's Matthew, but there are legitimate enough questions that you can't say it's 100% because it's he's the son of Alphaeus. It's possible that he and Matthew are very similar. One ends up one of the 12, one doesn't. That's possible. Either way, the principle holds that Jesus is calling and communing with these folks. I think it's Matthew, but the
church history thinks it's Matthew.
It does. That's the tradition. But but my point, is that it gets real weird. It gets complicated. It's no longer simple. Yeah, and that's what I want to delve into on Sunday. But this gets very, very odd. Your gathering is now suspect, by the way, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And Jesus is just going to build on that. And I think the
zealot that enters makes it even weirder.
Yeah. How did Jesus handle it? Because my impression always has been like, oh, Jesus is just like the God. Like, it's Matthew. Come on, Matthew. Oh.
Yeah, and you get this picture from the storybooks that here's 12 happy guys just following Jesus around, and
I think they had their dysfunction had to weigh heavy on him, and maybe even have a godly irritation at them. Yeah. And how did Jesus deal with godly irritation?
Therapy.
Well, with the father, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
We got some father therapy. These little late therapy sessions, so he had to walk across the water to get to the boat,
Yeah.
It's like,
he went to the pharmacist. Well, he was the pharmacist. I forgot.
He went to the pharmacist.
Yeah. No, it's those are obviously mild. That's how we handle it.
Sure. Well, and we have to.
And we need something.
In our fallen world, there's the definite need for that.
This is really interesting. I went to actually one of our folks at the church was playing at a bar music, and I went down to the show, and a friend of theirs got up and did a song, and they'd come to one of our evangelistic events, and so he dedicated the song to me, which I was like, oh, hey, what's up? And proceeded to cover a drum and bass song about Jesus doing cocaine, and I was listening to it, and I was like, I don't know where this is going. Thank you for dedicating it to me. And then he sat down and I said, okay, what was that? Like, tell me about this song. I'm beyond intrigued. And he actually said this, I just covered it. And he said the song is the artist basically was saying everybody used him. And it's hard to imagine in our modern day, if you got used that much, that you wouldn't need like a drug to cope. And so it was actually sympathetic to Jesus, assuming he had just been used. And it actually became, I was like, whoa, though I don't think that's what Jesus did. I don't think that was the song's point. I think the song was trying to imagine like how people use Jesus for their own purposes and how exhausting that would have been, and how in our modern day, that's the kind of person who to function would feel like they need drugs.
Right.
It was interesting. Yeah.
Right. Well, and I think one of the telling moments about Jesus and just the crowds and maybe his own disciples is, he goes up to the Mount of Transfiguration, has this great moment with Elijah, Moses, and the Father. Peter kind of misunderstands him or what's going on, wants to build tents for everybody. Yeah. And when they come down, they end up running into the demonic possessed boy, and they can't cast out the demon, and Jesus. But Jesus says, how long? I think he says, how long do I have to be with this wicked and perverse generation? And you
read it, you can read it different ways. One way would just be him like kind of ethereally going, oh, how long must I, bear with this generation? Or you could almost see him putting his head in his hands, like kind of like he's going to go into the garden and suffer. He's like, oh, how long? Like really like to the Father, like, I can't do this anymore. How long can I do this?
There is a certain human impatience with the process.
Yeah. And
that's godly.
Yeah.
Which was surprising to me, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think he handles dysfunction very earnestly and very honestly, which I think is, he's frustrated.
Yeah.
And it's okay. You can actually be frustrated and not sin.
And maybe frustrated and maybe just wiped out and actually asking God, like,
I'm tired.
How much longer do I have to do this? Like, is this almost over? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Do you relate to any of those feelings ever?
I think so. I think one of the things
maybe
that
not at the same level
recently learned is I'm not Jesus.
No.
I'm actually one of the disciples. So
I just figured that out in your case too.
I'm dysfunctional.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I am the son of thunder.
You're a shepherd and a sheep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm kind of, and Peter and those apostles had to figure it out as Jesus left and bear some of his own frustration and tiredness.
Well, tying back to that whole character thing, like that's the swing of the past was, I think people expected leaders to be the Jesus figure.
Mm-hmm.
And today, maybe in a healthy way, we've realized leaders are people. But I see your face, and it's true, because it is a heavy weight and a mantle. And
but who do they flock to?
Right. Yeah.
The people who put themselves up with the answer.
Sure. Oh yeah. Man, I was thinking about this
who
recently.
do I flock to?
I was thinking about this recently. Like, there is a formula for success, and it's one I've like shirked throughout my life, and I struggle with, when are you supposed to do it? But I'll see a leader who's just sure of themselves, and I kind of hate it. But I'll say in my mind, it'll work to some degree, at least for a while. People want confidence. In any direction. They just they want it not because it's right, but because it feels good. It feels comforting to have a confident person telling you what's what.
Right, because it's so hard for us to be confident.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
And that's tough. And right, in any direction. I don't know of anybody, including myself, that doesn't. Like, do I listen to podcasts of just nuanced people who really aren't sure?
No, that's why our podcast isn't very popular.
Yeah.
We need to be more sure of ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
we are the best podcast.
Would I go listen to our podcast, even though,
Probably not. Knowing you, I would.
I might not.
You might not.
But it's funny. It's and I hate that, because I know what works.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Stephen A. Smith in sports. You rant and you're just sure about everything, whether you're right or not. It doesn't matter. Just that's what gets attention.
Right. And you market yourself in a certain way. And you put all your energy. Well, hey, let's land the plane on something that wasn't on the topic, but we're headed into Holy Week.
Yeah.
Right? I think it's a big time all over the world. And here's a cultural analysis. Spooky, crazy movies are usually made before Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
I know that there are 2 Catholic demonic movies coming out prior to Easter.
That's not, honestly, we had a sermon recently about the exorcism, if you will, within the synagogue. And I went and looked, I was thinking, in the theme of our culture being spiritual but not religious.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I don't even buy that. I think it's very religious. As I went and I looked at the exorcism movies, new and old, but there's more and more of them.
Mm-hmm.
And many of them are Catholic in orientation, but it is one of the hot topics.
Yeah.
Yep.
I totally agree with you. And with that in mind, I think it is a spiritual space that week.
Yes.
The week of celebration and the looking towards the cross and then to the resurrection on Sunday is a big deal. And you got Thursday, which is Passover, and you got Friday, which is Good Friday. Saturday is what we call the week of. What's it? The day of waiting. I forget. There's a word for Saturday. This title for it, but
it was just like Holy
Saturday. Holy Saturday. It's Holy Saturday. It's the in between day.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot. You're ending your Lenten fast in this week. I think it's a great time to just take a deep breath and be like, all right, like I want to orient to this or towards Jesus. So anyway, that's my invitation to people is like, all right, take a deep breath on Monday and be like, I'm going to head into a very sacred moment, a week of preparation for the resurrection of Jesus.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Be my close. All right.
Excellent.
Thank you guys for listening to Faith Over Breakfast. We got somewhere. Yeah, it
was good. Remember, you can always ask us questions, faithoverbreakfast@gmail.com. If there's a topic, if you want to engage something from a podcast further.
Your new book comes out when? The one that you and Rod were writing?
I don't know yet. It's getting close to having a full manuscript.
Okay.
And then it'll go to an editor, and then we'll go from there. Yeah.
All right.
So that's it's a thing. It'd be interesting to have Rod on.
We should have Rod on, and maybe we'll do a little book giveaway.
Once it's off to the editor, and there are actually some dates we can play with.
Yeah,
let's do that. Start doing that. Yeah, that'd be great.
Big book giveaway. All right,
Limericks for our senseis. It will be called
Limericks for our senseis.
Limericks for our senseis.
You've been listening to Faith Over Breakfast with Pastor Eric Siepen and Pastor Andy Littleton. Please share us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Thank you.